Clearing criminal marijuana records, the San Diego lawyers who want to help people navigate the process.
Hopefully, maybe we just create a little bit more awareness, more restaurants step in and say, hey, yeah, we have a lot of waste going out. Let's see if we can, get it back in the soil.
Helping community composting grow in San Diego and how it fits into a zero waste plan for the city.
Sometimes you just need to be there. That's what someone needs. Just someone there grieving with them, or making them feel like they're in some level of normalcy when everything else doesn't feel normal.
Giving survivors a shoulder to lean on, the San Diego program that offers emotional first aid. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. A new legal ruling could make it harder for President Trump to end the DACA program. A federal judge in New York says the president based his decision on a flawed legal position. President Trump says he wants to allow DACA to phase out next month, claiming President Obama exceeded his authority in implementing it. The Senate is now debating a legislative fix, and today President Trump reiterated what he wants to see in an immigration deal.
So we're right now in the Senate, we're in Congress all together, and we'll see what happens with DACA. But we want securing the border and a wall, ending chain migration, and canceling the visa lottery. I think you all agree. Anybody in favor of the lottery, where you pick it out and you say, good, we have a new United States citizen? Doesn't work.
Today's ruling in New York mirrors a similar case in ruling in San Francisco that is being appealed by the Justice Department. The Supreme Court could announce as soon as this week if it will hear the case. David Nislight got his first public hearing since his nomination to be the city's next police chief. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says there was some impassioned testimony.
Many speakers praised Nislight for his decades of experience with SDPD and what many called an open-door approach to meeting with community members. One of the biggest issues brought up by speakers was police relations with minority communities, something the Black Police Officers Association said Nislight is aware of.
And I believe that he is going to come forward and make himself available in a transparent manner to hear those concerns and address those concerns. I'm not a shaman, so I can't say how that's going to turn out, but I am hopeful that he is open to listening and making changes.
David Nislight has worked for SDPD for more than 30 years, and few dispute his qualifications. But several said they want more specific details on how he plans to boost diversity in the ranks and deal with those issues of mistrust in communities of color.
Chief Nislight repeatedly speaks of communicating with the community, but each of these statements ring hollow because they're completely without substance. Chief Nislight has worked for the department, for 30 years or so? He should have more to give us than a vague, meaningless promise of communication.
Nislight wasn't required to attend last night's meeting, but he was there and did answer a few questions. The City Council will hold another public hearing on his candidacy and vote on his confirmation on February 26th. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
The San Diego County District Attorney's Office and the Public Defender's Office are teaming up to dismiss or reduce thousands of marijuana convictions. Now, local attorneys are pushing awareness and offering help. KPBS reporter Jade Heinman has more.
Well, the effort comes after little response to a provision in Proposition 64 that not only reduces or eliminates many marijuana law violations, it makes those changes retroactive. It's been in place for more than a year, yet attorneys say few have taken advantage. Despite a legal pathway to clear criminal marijuana records, it's a path less traveled. Convictions continue to stand in the way of employment, housing, financing, licensing, and voting for thousands in San Diego County.
We've changed the law for everyone because it wasn't the right law for anyone.
Jessica McElfresh is a criminal defense attorney who specializes in cannabis law and regulation. She says while filing the paperwork to get some marijuana convictions cleared or reduced is easy, many of her clients are intimidated by the process.
For many people, that becomes a barrier, either because they're concerned it's more complicated than it is, they don't want to go to a courthouse, and let's face it, it's very few people's favorite place to go. So that has been a barrier.
The San Diego District Attorney's Office says so far they've managed to clear or reduce about 600 criminal marijuana records after reviewing the cases. But still, there are thousands more.
It is relatively simple to get the relief from the court, and it's very broad in the offenses. It's very broad in who can qualify. It doesn't matter for the most part if you've had another conviction. It doesn't matter if you've been convicted of, several different marijuana offenses. You can likely qualify for relief. I can't guarantee it, but a lot of people can.
McElfresh says it takes about 2 weeks to process paperwork once filed, and there's no file. And in the meantime, some state lawmakers are working on legislation to have criminal marijuana records automatically cleared. Jade Hindman, KPBS News.
Education Secretary Betsy Devos said she supports an Obama-era pilot program that offers Pell Grants to prisoners. The news comes as a welcome surprise to Patrice Milkovich. She oversees a Southwestern college program helping Donovan State Prison inmates earn business degrees with Pell Grants.
Teaching and pursuing degrees inside corrections is a very elongated process. So we're hoping that the funds will continue so that these students, this cohort of Southwestern colleges, can get their associate's degree in business administration by the end of 2019.
Federal law has barred prisoners from receiving Pell Grants since the 90s. Despite criticism from conservatives, former President Barack Obama waived the ban for 12,000 inmates on a pilot basis. Milkovich says the students at Donovan have an average GPA of 3.35. 2 have been released and are continuing their education on the outside. California might end up making Election Day a state holiday. Supporters of a bill introduced in Sacramento say many voters don't show up to the polls because of other obligations. 14 other states have already declared statewide election days as holidays. It's still unclear how much it would cost to make the change. The state assembly will take up the bill in the next few months. Also in Sacramento, a $1 billion push to invest in affordable housing. The spending is part of a larger package of bills. Supporters are also trying to speed up the permit process for developers that work on homeless assistance projects. It's a battle over beer featuring a local microbrew and one of the business's biggest names in the industry.
You can see very clearly they are trying to just line this up and push the word Stone. Hey, in the world of beer, the name Stone is ours.
That's the founder of Escondido-based Stone Brewing. In a video released this week after a lawsuit was filed against Miller Coors, Stone Brewing says Miller Coors has rebranded its Keystone beer in a way that leads to unfair competition and trademark infringement. Miller Coors has responded, calling the lawsuit a publicity stunt and saying the Keystone brand has been around longer than Stone has been in business. San Diego is on a long-term plan to reach zero waste. By 2020, 75% of the trash residents and businesses throw out is supposed to be kept out of the landfill, either recycled or reused in some way. The city has a long way to go before reaching that goal. Last month, the city council gave a boost to small businesses growing the market of composting. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen has the story.
It's just past 9 a.m., and this team of composters is already busy getting their hands dirty. They're shoveling wet brown mulch into a bin on the edge of a small urban farm in City Heights. Their compost batch alternates between layers of mulch and kitchen scraps like squeezed lemons and coffee grounds. The composting process naturally raises the mixture to upwards of 140 degrees. Steam rises from the piles as intern Lisa Ponce moves a compost batch into a new holding bin.
This particular batch, we're kind of actually troubleshooting. This batch didn't spike to the temperature that we wanted it to. That is a normal temperature.
Oh, look at all that.
Ponce uncovers a network of tiny fungal threads called mycelium. They accelerate the breakdown process.
Fungal colonies are very delicate. They only develop at certain temperatures. And the sign that this is there in the compost is a very healthy sign.
Sarah Boltwala Messina is the executive director of the nonprofit that started this composting program called Food to Soil. The program trains interns in good composting methods using vegetative scraps from a handful of downtown restaurants.
The interns right now consists of firefighters, journalists, former beauticians, engineers, people who are working in the biochemical industry, because they are gardeners and they want to connect with the soil at a deeper level.
Up until recently, Food to Soil was operating in a legal gray area. Technically, they were transporting waste without a permit and avoiding city fees for waste collection. At the same time, they were helping the city's zero waste goals by keeping more organic material out of the landfill. 3 weeks ago, the city council voted to legalize Food to Soil and other community composting projects by opening them up to a special permitting process.
That's a huge door that's opened up for community scale composting, because now we can do it legitimately and we can really bring up these hubs that Food to Soil wants.
One of the businesses that supplies Food to Soil with food scraps is Achilles Coffee. Owner Chad Bell moved here a few years ago from San Francisco, where he says composting was a lot easier and more mainstream. It's tougher here.
We were throwing out so many coffee grounds that my baristas were having trouble just getting it out to the trash. So I started calling around looking for a composter, and it was actually a little more difficult than I thought.
Bell pays Food to Soil a fee to pick up his spent coffee grounds and kitchen scraps. It's an additional cost he's taken on voluntarily, but he says throwing more waste into the landfill carries a hidden cost to the environment.
Hopefully, maybe we just create a little bit more awareness, more restaurants step in and say, hey, yeah, we have a lot of waste going out. Let's see if we can get it back in the soil.
Just spray it one more time.
Back at the composting site, Boltwala Messina checks over her intern's latest batch. She says there's a demand for community-scale composting that the city's big waste haulers can never fulfill, and the city's regulations should support that.
50% of our population is going to be moving into urban areas. We are investing in smart growth. We are investing in infill development. Smart growth is not smart enough if it doesn't look at its waste stream in a very smart way.
And she says that means working to recover value from the waste we throw out. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Citing concerns about the economy and the environment, the San Diego County Board of Supervisors is publicly opposing President Donald Trump's plan for offshore oil drilling. The board, all of whom are Republicans, voted unanimously on a resolution today. It calls for the board to send letters to President Trump and the local congressional delegation expressing its concerns. Scattered showers will stick around tonight and into tomorrow before we see a warm-up. Erin Calandra has details in tonight's forecast.
Hopefully you are enjoying your Tuesday. We did see a couple of showers around today, and that is going to continue. We have a low pressure system in place, and it is kind of right around here, right off the coast. And with that, we are seeing widespread showers, staying drier the further north and east we go. And to the south, well, that's where we could see a couple more frequent showers. That's going to be the pattern through tonight and also into some places tomorrow. So here's the bigger picture. You can see Fresno, Bakersfield, Los Angeles. Many people are seeing spotty showers today, and that's great news because it's awfully dry. We need any kind of wet weather we can get. Unfortunately, this really isn't going to take a dent out of our droughts, but it's better than nothing. So 55 degrees for tonight, partly cloudy. It was a bit chilly today. Not really chilly, but where it should be, but compared to how warm it has been, it was a lot cooler. So Poway 46, San Diego 55, Ramona 40, and Borrego Springs coming in at 46 degrees for our lows. Now, as I said, that low pressure system, it's over the ocean right now. It's going to be slowly pushing to the east tomorrow. And so we will see more showers to the south south of Chula Vista. That's where we'll see the showers. The rest of the region, it's going to stay pretty dry and still on the cool side because another system is going to be pushing down from the north. With that, we're not going to see any kind of precipitation, but it's going to keep our temperatures right where they should be, seasonable, for another day or so. So tomorrow, we could see very brief showers in places. Most people are going to stay dry. Most of those showers, again, are going to stay south of Chula Vista, 66 degrees. Poway, 67. Oceanside, also 67. And San Diego, coming in at 66. That is where we should be. Borrego Springs, sunshine there, 71 degrees. It's going to be a nice dry weekend. Not much happening here. And as we take a look at the temperatures, well, on Wednesday, could see again very brief showers. Thursday, that second system, it's keeping us in the 60s. Staying dry, though, and then warming up to the 70s for the weekend. Inland, very similar pattern here. It's going to be warming up over the next couple of days. In the mountains, it's kind of cool in the 40s. It will be warming up to the 50s through the weekend. And in the deserts, we're in the 70s all week with beautiful sunshine. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra. Ebony, back to you.
San Diego's Symphony introduced its new music director today. Award-winning Venezuelan conductor Rafael Payar got a 4-year contract. The 37-year-old has conducted orchestras all over the world and becomes the 13th music director in the 100-plus year history of the Symphony. San Diego Symphony is the oldest orchestra in California, performing for more than 250,000 people each season. San Diego's top plays and musicals were celebrated at an awards ceremony Monday night. Here with some of the winners is KPBS Arts Calendar editor Nina Guerin.
The Craig Noel Awards honored the best plays and musicals performed in 2017. Think of them like the San Diego Tonys, with the winners being picked by local theater critics.
Practically everybody's stressed, yes, but they press through the mess, bounce checks, and wonder what's next.
Top honors of the night went to Moonlight Stage Productions' In the Heights, the musical by Lin-Manuel Miranda about the lives of Latin characters in New York's Washington Heights. The San Diego version won for Best Musical Direction, Best Choreography, Best Director of a Musical, and Outstanding Musical. On the dramatic side, the awards were split for 2 plays that tackle issues about racism and civil rights. Ion Theater's The Battle of Emmett Till, about a crime that sparked the civil rights movement, won Best Play, Best Direction, and Best Ensemble. Intrepid Theater's Civil War epic Father Comes Home from the Wars, Parts 1, 2, and 3, also took home an award for Best Direction. And what about San Diego's theater establishments, the Old Globe and the La Jolla Playhouse? Both earned 1 award each. La Jolla Playhouse's Wild Goose Dreams for Outstanding Sound Design, and the Old Globe's The Absolute Brightness of Leonard Pelkey won for Best Solo Performance. You can see a complete list of winners at kpbs.org. For KPBS Arts, I'm Nina Guerin.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, intelligence chiefs answer questions about the White House security clearance process that has come under fire. Coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
California needs to make some major investments to meet future demand for mental health professionals. A new report from UC San Francisco Health Force Center finds 37% of psychologists and 45% of psychiatrists in California are over the age of 60. The report says the state needs to find a way to increase the supply of behavioral health professionals and increase the ethnic diversity of the workforce. When tragedy strikes, survivors are often overwhelmed. They may not know who to ask for help. That's when people from the nonprofit Trauma Intervention Program, or TIP, jump into action. KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg recently sat in on a TIP training session.
On a Saturday afternoon at a fire station in Lemon Grove, TIP trainer Malcolm Mitchell lays out some fundamental principles.
I'm going to tell you 2 stories.
He tells the trainees that people who've suffered a tragedy often go into emotional shock. Mitchell talks about the time he was called to help a woman whose husband had killed himself. The man's body was lying downstairs when Mitchell arrived.
And as I was talking to his wife, she said, and she knew the circumstance, she had found him, but she said, he is going to be so mad when he gets home.
Mitchell says regardless of a survivor's emotional state, TIP volunteers are there to protect survivors from further injury. That includes preparing them for what they're about to see.
The paramedics did everything they could, but there is a tube in your mom's mouth, and she's on the floor now. So I just want to let you know that that's what you're going to see. So
Mitchell says sometimes survivors act impulsively. For example, they might want to follow an ambulance to the hospital when they're in no condition to drive. Mitchell has trainees act out that scenario.
It's totally normal.
Their job is to acknowledge what the survivor wants to do and gently suggest a safer alternative.
Because if not, I'm going to miss out.
Rosanna Walker and Sonia Santamaria give it a shot.
I understand that you feel that there's an urgent need to get there. I do see that you're feeling that way. I'm wondering if the lady across the street who I just saw her out in her yard, maybe she could transport you quickly.
Okay, let's go ask her.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, Mary, gone.
In another exercise, Mitchell plays a grieving husband.
Yes.
As a TIP volunteer, Santa Maria is supposed to lean in, lightly touch him, and make an emotional connection.
And she was just so much fun. She was the light of my life.
She seems like she was such a good company to you and that you both bonded so well.
Yeah, we really did. Thank you.
That's beautiful to have.
Yeah.
This is Santa Maria's third day of training. She likes the idea of comforting someone who's hurting.
Sometimes you just need to be there. That's what someone needs. Just someone there grieving with them or making them feel like they're in some level of normalcy when everything else doesn't feel normal.
It's fraught with peril, to use the word I understand, because we don't totally understand how somebody's feeling.
Mitchell got involved with TIP 12 years ago. He got a call one day from one of his employees. Her husband had just shot himself.
And we really don't understand.
Mitchell went to her home to lend a hand. He met a TIP volunteer at the scene. Within a few hours, the volunteer got a support network on site, called a pastor, and worked with the medical examiner to give the grieving spouse some moments alone with her late husband's body. As Mitchell was leaving, he told the TIP volunteer that he didn't know how anyone could do what she had just done.
She said, well, you could do it. And I said, no, I couldn't. She said, you already did. Your phone rang and you came. My phone rang and I came. And the only difference is I have more training than you do.
TIP volunteers get 52 hours of training, which includes going out on calls with more experienced volunteers. After that, they commit to 3 12-hour shifts a month. Cher DeWeese is TIP's executive director. She says to be a TIP volunteer, you need to be caring, compassionate, and resilient. DeWeese says it's not for everyone.
We are with these people in the darkest moments of their lives, truly, and we get into the pit with them and we help them as they work their way out of that darkness. Yeah.
Talk to the firemen over there.
Last year, TIP volunteers helped more than 4,800 county residents in crisis.
But everybody grieves in their own way.
Kenny Goldberg, KPBS News.
Okay.
TIP is looking for more volunteers who want to help people in crisis. Information is available at 855-847-7343. Teens are balancing life lessons at the San Diego Velodrome. While these at-risk youth zip around the track, they're finding new ways to grow mentally and physically. KPBS video journalist Matthew Bowler introduces us to the lessons and the perks of the Velo Youth program.
San Diego Velo Youth is a program that's run out of the San Diego Velodrome. And what we do is we specifically work here at the Velodrome in San Diego, bringing at-risk teens from San Diego and the greater South Bay area down to our Velodrome, teaching a values-based class.
Here, grab your bikes, hang your bikes up. Carlos, you new?
We bring those kids down annually, about 100 to 125 kids per year. And through that program, we teach values. Define what self-respect means. You guys are responsible for all of your choices every day. Okay.
Up to the boards we go. All right, get your bikes. Let's go. Line up again, the same order, okay?
If they've gone through the program, they've done their community service, they've had positive participation, they've had great attendance, then they actually earn a bike, a lock, and a helmet at the end of our program. What we do is we target Title I schools. So all of our schools have either 75 to 90% free or reduced lunch for the kids. You know, everybody comes from a different place, and they bring that perspective with them, and as long as the kids are open and honest, we have good dialogue and communication about what we're doing off the bikes as well as what we're doing on the bikes.
Everybody's ready?
Yeah. Ready!
All right, next, roll out. Good job, Josh. Go ahead.
The San Diego Velodrome's an outdoor 333 track, and it has 27 degrees of banking, I believe. And relatively, it's safe. Nice and steady. Good. But the beauty is that they're in a fearful place. So when they come to the track, they get to ride one of these bikes, which they may or may not have ridden before. They get to go out on a banking that's scaring them. And after the very first class, they've already accomplished something that they didn't think they could do. They've worked through fear. And the reality is we get nowhere steering away from fear. So whatever it is that you want to do, make a choice to commit to doing it. Don't wait and take a chance that it works out. Right? Because then who's in control? Not you.
We have posted more information about the Velo Youth Program at kpbs.org. Now here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, Senator Dianne Feinstein's up for re-election. She's the oldest member of the Senate. A closer look at politics and aging. And on Midday Edition, a legendary basketball star on and off the court. We talked to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar about his new book about his coach. That's tomorrow on KPBS Radio. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.